Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We'd like to begin the evening, so if you'd get settled, please. Now that everyone has found, hopefully, his or her table, you can take down those orange signs if you choose to. If they're blocking any vision, you can take the sign off or put the holder down on the table, whatever is best for you. The signs were only there, of course, for you to locate your table, and now that you have found your table, they are unnecessary. So if you feel like moving them, you can do that. Just lay it down or put it on the floor under the table. Just don't trip on it. Anyways, we are going to begin. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Ross Wedlake. I'm the chair of the Manitoba Basketball Hall of Fame and Museum, and I'd like to welcome you to the 17th Manitoba Basketball Hall of Fame Induction Dinner. Probably the best thing I can say this evening is that we have set a new record here tonight for attendance. Looking around the room, I can tell you there are 356 people here. Thank you very much. I am going to try this evening to remember the most important rule of public speaking, and that is to be brief, no matter how long it takes. In our Manitoba Basketball Hall of Fame, we have at this point, before tonight, 97 players who have been inducted, 71 builders, and 39 groups of teams. The mission of the Manitoba Basketball Hall of Fame is twofold. Number one, to honor, as we are doing tonight, those that have made major contributions and had major successes in the game of basketball in the province of Manitoba. And number two, to preserve the heritage of this great game of basketball that we all have and still enjoy. I would also take a moment to wish Happy New Year to our Jewish friends out there. I believe it's the year 5780. I keep still writing 5779 on my checks, but I'll have to make that change. There's a number of thanks we'd like to give here tonight. First of all, we have to thank the University of Winnipeg for them dedicating the space that we have at their institution. We had many people there this afternoon for a wine and cheese reception, and it was great to have so many people, maybe for the first time, see our Hall of Fame and Museum. We'd also like to thank all of the prize donors, and they are all on the side there, and hopefully you bought tickets. If you didn't, our prize sellers didn't do their job, so I'll be coming around to steal your wallet. But I'd like to thank Basketball Manitoba, Brandon University Bobcats, Canada Basketball, Manitoba High Schools Athletic Association, Manitoba Liquor and Lotteries, the University of Manitoba Bisons, University of Winnipeg Westman, and the Victoria Inn Hotel and Convention Centre for donating those prizes. We appreciate it. I'd also like to recognize the members of our organizing committee that are here. I think we're all here tonight. My name, as I said, is Ross Wedlake. I'm the chair. Vic Pruden is the past chair. Vic, if you could want to stand up and wave, feel free. Janet McMahon is the treasurer. Jerry Olchina was around selling tickets. Wes Krimble, Morris Glimcher, Jerry Hemmings, Carol Plain Hosgood, Ken Apolko, Susan Johnson, and Adam Wedlake, the Executive Director of Basketball Manitoba, is ex officio as our recording secretary. So all of those people are members of the organizing committee for our Hall of Fame, and we thank them too. I'd like to also just give you a very brief history of the Manitoba Basketball Hall of Fame. It was developed as an idea in the early 1980s, and I was not involved, and none of those people that I listed earlier were at that time, and it was just an idea. The first induction took place in 1983. It was actually on April the 23rd of that year. We have the programs from all of the inductions, and it was a group of people, all of whom have passed since then, and I'll just list their names. They are all now members of our Hall of Fame. They were Charlie Campbell, Hugh Penwarden, Earl Sutton, John McWilliams, Whitey Carlson, Jim Bullock, Don Kerr, and George Fontaine. Those were the people who really started the idea of having a Basketball Hall of Fame, and we thank them for their leadership, really, of what they showed. For 18 years, it existed only as a name and with inductions taking place in random years. Then in 2001, we acquired some space in the University of Winnipeg, not where we are presently located, but the site was actually opened. And you can see there are some pictures of the opening up there. Some of those people you might recognize. Some of our stellars who are here tonight are in those pictures cutting the ribbons. That was our original site. And we finally had a home. And we are still the only province in Canada that has a permanent site for a Basketball Hall of Fame and museum. There is no other province that has one. Then in 2014, we were relocated within the University of Winnipeg to the site we're in right now, which is, in my opinion, a much better site. It's much more visible. And we also became the Manitoba Basketball Hall of Fame and Museum. We did this for a lot of reasons, but one of them was because we already were a museum, but didn't have that in our name. But also we applied for and got level 1 status as a museum with Manitoba Culture and Heritage, the province of Manitoba, and that gave us some limited amount of funding to support what we were doing. So we became a museum at that time too. It's also important to note that there is no National Basketball Hall of Fame, which is sad, and we hope that that someday gets remedied. But we feel that, and whenever we do have people here and show them, they are always very envious of the fact that we have this site at the University of Winnipeg and are able to, as I said, honor individuals and preserve the heritage of the game. I'm now going to call upon Adam Wedlake, who's the Executive Director of Basketball Manitoba. They offer us a great deal of support in many, many ways. We are members of Basketball Manitoba. That's the Hall of Fame. Adam and Jillian and the intern Jan have been great help to us here today and continue to do so. I'll ask Adam to bring greetings and to give you some information about some programs through Basketball Manitoba.
All right, thank you, Ross. When our Hall of Fame committee met back in the summertime, it was decided that, and it was unanimously decided by the Hall of Fame group, or the induction group, that anybody with the last name Wedlake is allowed 1 hour total time speaking at the evening tonight. So it was decided as well that Ross gets 59 minutes, and I get 1 minute. So I've already eaten into my 1 minute here, so I'll get right to what I'm here for. So again, just to echo some of the things Ross has already said, greetings and welcome on behalf of Basketball Manitoba, our board of directors and our staff. It is, of course, a great honor to be recognized by our Hall of Fame here this year. We only do this every second year. And, of course, we would like to gratefully welcome all of the inductees, our players, our builders, and our teams that are being honored this evening. So, again, it's a special evening for basketball. So Ross asked me to quickly speak about something you can see up on your screen here. One thing that we're pursuing here, and we'd like to, of course, to seek some additional of your support, is what we started 2 years ago called the Basketball for Life Fund. And what's that there for mainly is to do its best to remove as many financial barriers as we possibly can to the next generation of young people that are looking to get involved in our sport. There's more people playing basketball today than there ever has been, and that's wonderful. It, however, brings its share of challenges of making sure that we ensure that we keep that number high and that everybody who wants to play does play. So we have a wide range of people from all over Manitoba that are keen and wanting to play. So our Basketball for Life Fund was started just over 2 years ago, looking to, again, to remove as many barriers as we can so that 25 years from now, the next, whenever year that would be our next induction dinner, that we would be able to honor the next wave of Hall of Fame inductees that may be only 5 years old right now. And we want to make sure that we never say no to anybody. We want to make sure that everybody has an opportunity to play. So as part of this, just like I said, just over 2 years ago, we launched what you can see on your screen there is a basketball specialty license plate. It's been just over 2 years now out, and we've sold about 850. We're looking to sell another to a total of 1,000, so we're very close. And from that, the financial awards to our sport will be significantly increased, and then that will 100% of those dollars go right into ensuring that young people have an opportunity to play. It also goes to help the next wave of coaching as well. So when we do have our young people working with people, our volunteers, that we can support our coaches the best possible we can. We can all probably look back, and many, especially our teams and inductees this evening, your life might be quite different right now if say you were told 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago that unfortunately we can't have you play basketball because we don't have a team, we don't have a coach, we don't have something, and we want to make sure we never say that to anybody. So again, your support on this is vital. They sell for $70 each at any MPI location. You can get them. There's over 300 locations of any MPI outlet to buy them from. And if you already own a plate, thank you. Thank you very much. I was in the parking lot earlier and I saw a lot of them, which is wonderful to see. If you do have one, I ask that you can go and speak to a colleague, a friend, a coworker, somebody in your life that's involved with basketball, and suggest that they pick one up from us as well. That'd be great. If you don't, here's your chance to support the game that hopefully has changed your life. I know many people here. It's been a life changer for many to stay involved with the game we all love, and again, it will go a long way. So I've already eaten my minute. Ross is down to 57 for those that are keeping track. I'm going to turn it back over to him. Thanks. Enjoy your evening.
Thanks, Adam. You will notice in those prizes over there that one of the prizes is a license plate. So somebody is, or two of them actually, a set of them, somebody's going to win that tonight. Whoever wins that, make sure you come and see me after, because right now that plate, whatever the number is, 800 and something, is registered to me. And we have to do a little bit of paperwork to sign it over to you. So whoever wins that, make sure you come and see me after. And it's quite simple. You just have to sign some things. It will cost you nothing, I promise. Speaking about the prizes, a couple of things. I've been asked to say that the prizes will be drawn later in the evening, and if you've still got tickets, they got to get in there during dinner. So if you've got tickets in your hand, don't stand up now and do it, but sometime get up there and put them in the appropriate one that you want to win. And all those numbers will be put up on the screen eventually. We won't call them out. You can look for your number. If you won, you can come and claim them from up in this area. The person will have them. I think it's my wife Brenda will have them, and she will give you your prize. So we thank you for your support in that area. Also would mention that the shooting competition was taking place there before in that corner before dinner, and we have a winner. And with I think it was 29 was his number, and his name is Dylan Robertson, who's Duke Beardy's grandson. So could he come forward, please? Sorry, Dawson Robertson. Dawson is winning a prize from the University of Winnipeg for one night in the corporate suite. So if you have, I think it's up to 25 friends. Do you have 25 friends? I don't, so if I wanted, I wouldn't be able to go. But here, congratulations. There it is. That's right, Dawson. Sorry, Dawson. I'd also like to recognize the fact that we have a number of our honored members in the audience tonight. We not only thank them for being here, but we want to recognize the fact that they are here. So in the player category, would these people please stand up and wave? These are the people who have been honored in the past who are here tonight to celebrate other people being honored. First, Dick Bevan. Where's Dick? Stand up and wave, Dick. Wasn't much of a wave, Dick. Come on, give us a better wave than that. Ken Galanchuk, he's here. Dave Mills. Ken Apolko. Daryl Rumsey. Ted Stowes. Glen Targerson. Bob Town. Is Watts here? Rick Watts. There he is. He snuck in. And me. In the builder category, we have a number of builders here with us tonight. Jaime Foxx is here. Jerry Hemmings. Jerry Olchina. Larry Marquitson. Rod Pepler. Good to see Rod. Glad to have you here, Rod. Vic Pruden. Wayne Ruff. Bill Wedlake. And Dwayne White. We also have people here who are members of teams that have been honored. If they would stand and wave. Greg Daniels. Tim Ruppel. Stacy Hawash Ewell, or Ewell Hawash. Doug McGregor. Cease Hannock. Randy Cassano. Morley Rip. Gord Johnson. Brian Kornberger. Carol Plain Hosegood. John Taylor. Brian Ottenbright. Morris Glimcher. Al Beaver. Devin Daly. Susan Johnson. Ken Corrali. Earl Roberts. Hopefully I didn't forget anybody, but welcome and thank you all to those honored members for their support. We very much appreciate it. I'd like to just mention one specific group, and that's we have 3 members of the original Stellars with us here tonight. They would be the most senior of our members. The Winnipeg Stellars won 3, help me Dick, 2 or 3? Two national junior championships at a time when junior basketball was as good as it gets. They went coast to coast. In those days you traveled by train. So it took them a long time to get there and back. They are really, as I said, we're very, very happy they're here tonight. I mentioned their names earlier. They are Dick Bevan, Gord Johnson, and Morley Rip. So thanks guys for being here. I will now take a moment to say a short grace. At this time, we pause quietly for a few minutes to reflect and to give thanks. We are thankful for sport, teammates, the spirit of competition, memories, all the good things of life, good food and good drink, and for all those whose efforts have set them before us. Let us be good company to each other. Let us enjoy ourselves, and may our friendships be strengthened. But let us not forget that many are less fortunate. What we desire for ourselves, we wish for all. To this end, may we take our share of the world's work and the world's struggles. Amen. Also, as is our custom, let us remember now by name those who have passed away in the 2 years since our last gathering. Some are inducted members of our Hall of Fame. Others were important people in our extended basketball community. We miss all of them. We remember Robert Fardo, Jane Evans, Sarah Ibrahim, James Pettiford, Christopher Baxter, Ernie Goodrow, Bob Payson, Bob Sexsmith, Donovan Gale, Jerry Parker Stilchina, Fred Pisklevich, Lois Dearden, George Elkers, Dale Gamey, Audrey Jones, Mike Vyra, Bill Lindsay, Dave Novak, Alex Keenan, Gord Cardinal, Jeff Freeheit, Dave Price, Peter Falk, Sheila Henderson, Doreen Pruden, Eileen Pepler, Stu Farnell, Daniel Brick, Joanne Koski, Ruth Dobbin, Michael Bevan, Gail Gillies, Donald Ray Hemmings, Pete Mulder, Bob Lovett, Harold Jack Perkins, Art Bryant, Bruce Silversides, Jim Wolfe. We, as he said, we remember and miss all of those people. It's an impressive list, but I'm glad I'm not on it. I think that's all we had to do, and now all that has to happen is dinner is served, so please enjoy your meal. If there are any allergies, I think I've informed the hotel of all the special meal requests, but if they make sure that they are aware of that before they serve the meals, if they usually ask questions. I also will tell you, just before I give up the mic, they are bringing 2 bottles of wine to your table, and this wine is courtesy of somebody who many in this room know. His name is Mr. Ted Fardo, and that is Canotech Consultants Limited. So next time you see Ted Fardo, he's not here tonight, he was unable to be here, please thank him for his generosity in sponsoring the 2 bottles of wine at each table. Thank you and enjoy your meal. Okay, I think we're going to begin the formal part of our evening. I know some of you may still be finishing your desserts, but that's fine, but we're going to get on with the formal part of the evening. I'd like to now call upon Carol Plain-Hosegood, who's a member of our organizing committee, and she's going to talk to you about a new initiative that we have with the Manitoba Basketball Hall of Fame and Museum. Welcome, Carol Plain-Hosegood.
All right, good evening, everyone. First of all, I would like to welcome all of the inductees this evening, their guests, and everyone within the basketball community. It's a real honor to be up here. Apparently, you should show up to meetings and listen closer, because I was told I was in charge of, or I would help with, the rebounding at the shooting thing earlier. But after this evening, I would like to formally submit my name and Laurie Penton's name for top rebounders ever in the history of basketball. Anyway, it was lots of fun, but I got to tell you, it was exhausting. So, my job tonight is to share a little bit about the Hall of Fame, of which Ross did an amazing job earlier. It's pretty amazing that we are the only location in Canada that has a permanent spot where you can go and actually physically see the memorabilia, the photos, games, and everything. But one other thing I want to point out on that is we have an amazing website that you can also go to that has fabulous information. And the whole goal is, our job is, we want to secure that for the future. So about a year and a half ago, we had the opportunity through the Winnipeg Foundation. They introduced a program called the Manitoba Heritage Trust Program. And the Basketball Hall of Fame qualified for it. And we were able to start an endowment fund. And for those not familiar with endowment funds, it's about generating a pot of money that we generate interest off of that will then pay our expenses to run the Hall of Fame in perpetuity. So forever and ever, amen, we can look after this Hall of Fame. Our goal was to raise $50,000, and so far we have raised 80% of that, and we are thrilled to death. We're very happy in the direction that we're going. Now, through the Manitoba Heritage Trust Fund and the Government of Manitoba, we can match 50 cents on every dollar that is donated. So for every $100, we can turn that into $150. So through that, as I said, we're 80% there. And I like it, we're only halfway through our campaign. So we're half time of our campaign, and we are way up in the game. But as we know, at half time, as what happened last weekend with a team in Winnipeg, we can lose our momentum, and that can just sort of fall apart. So what I'm asking and encouraging all of you, is my job tonight, is to have a look within your program. There's a sheet of paper that tells you a little bit more about it, a little more details. There's also a form on the back you can fill out. You can also go to the website and make a gift online. But what's super cool is I did a little math tonight. And there are over 350 people in the room. If everyone in this room was just to give $20 donation, our job would be done. So I challenge each of you in the room tonight to make a gift if you can. We would appreciate it. It's going to get us closer to our goal. And when we exceed that goal, The plan of the board is to then be able to do future things like create scholarship or do other things to build the history and build the future Manitobans that will be in our Hall of Fame. So that's really all I'm here to do, is to invite you to consider making a gift to this endowment fund and guarantee the future of our Basketball Hall of Fame. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Carol, and I would echo much of what she said in that this is a great opportunity for us to guarantee the future of our Basketball Hall of Fame and Museum, and if we got everybody behind it, it's going to be a good future for us all, so we're very happy about that. Okay, beginning the formal part of our evening, we will be following the order in your program, so if you're wondering where different people will be honored, it will be the order that is listed on page 3 of your program. I would recognize before we begin, and it's appropriate to do so today, that we are on Treaty 1 land. And I'd also like to mention that we have a special guest with us tonight, and that is MKO Grand Chief Garrison Settee, who is here and sitting at the table there with Duke Beardy. We're happy to have you, Grand Chief. We're always happy to share a meal and time with our Indigenous brothers and sisters, so thank you for being here. The first group, and it is a group, that we're going to recognize tonight is the 1974, 75, 75, 76, and 79, 80 Dauphin Regional Comprehensive Secondary School Clippers. Dauphin, Manitoba is known for many things. Ukrainians, Country Fest, Ukrainians, the Fort Dauphin Museum, Ukrainians, Lake Dauphin, and more Ukrainians. And when you hear me list off the names of the, I'll say young men, though some of them would say they're not that young anymore, who are here tonight to be honored, you'll see that they come by their Ukrainian descent very honestly. So even though Dauphin may be known for those things, in the late 1970s, Dauphin was known as the basketball capital of the Parkland region. The Dauphin Clippers were dominant in 3A varsity boys high school basketball during that decade. Under the leadership of Coach Larry Macdougall, they set a new standard for excellence. In all 3 championship final games, they defeated the Lord Selkirk Royals, which is interesting that the 2 of them would come down to the final in all 3 years. And all 3 years, they were very close games. In 75, the score was 62-57. In 76, it was 52-46. And in 1980, when it was actually hosted in Dauphin, it was 50-48. Now, they often say coaching shows in the close games. If that's the case, then Larry Macdougall must have done a great job. In 1980, as I said, they hosted the tournament at home in Dauphin, and that year Brian Smith was the tournament MVP and scored 27 points in the championship game. Brian is here tonight. He'll be coming up in a moment, and he's come all the way from Houston, Texas to be here tonight, and we thank him. Dwayne Federchuk, a member of the team that year, was quoted as saying, "The whole town was buzzing for us. It was electric. It went down to some foul shots at the end of the game, as often basketball games do. The teams were renowned for their unselfish play, great teamwork, tough defense, and which was probably a reflection of their coach. Many members of the team are here tonight. Some have come a long distance, as I said, and it is obvious that they were a very tight and together group. I would now call forward the following team members to receive their Hall of Fame awards. And I would ask Adam Wedlake of Basketball Manitoba to come and help me. Would these people please come forward? Louis Baltus, who was an assistant coach. Ken Bartley. Duke Beardy. And Duke, I should mention, is a proud member of the Tutuxquayak Cree Nation of Split Lake, and there are many people here in support of him and celebrating with him. Bob Cleve, who was the manager. Daryl Drobniski. Jeff Easler. Dwayne Fedirchuk, Gordon Fedirchuk, come right up on the stage here, as it is. Richard Gusnowski, Keith Hyatt, Rod Horechka, R.J. McKenzie, Michael McGregor, John Ochitwa, Jamie Simpson, Brian Smith, Greg Southam, and I should mention Greg was of great help to me in tracking down some of these gentlemen and gave me a lot of resources to help with tonight's preparations. Harold Wellborn. Sadly, two members of the Clippers, in addition to their coach, Gerald Chernicki and Bruce McDonald, have passed away. However, they're both represented here tonight. I would ask that Gerald's sister, Jacqueline Onegi, and Bruce's brother, David, also come forward to accept on behalf of their brothers. I would also invite June McDougall, Larry's wife, to come forward to accept on behalf of Coach Larry McDougall and also accept the banner for the school. It should look great in their school gym along with their championship banners. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the newest inductees in our Manitoba Basketball Hall of Fame, the 1974-75, the 1975-76, and the 1979-80 Dauphin Clippers. Maybe move down this way a bit and we can get some better pictures. Move down this way a bit, guys. So everybody gets in.
I got enough pictures taken of me over there already. I should be over there. How fast is taking pictures.
What's it say? Kneel down in front. We'll help you get back up.
You mean I gotta kneel down again because I'm a short guy? Jesus Christ.
There will be opportunities for pictures following the formal part of our evening. And so if team members want to get a picture with the banner or a better picture than the one that we've got up here, if it looks crowded now, wait till the Ross L. Gray teams get up here. If she can get through, Jacqueline Onegi, who is the, as we said, the brother of Gerald Chernicki, is going to speak on behalf of the team. Jacqueline, can you make your way through here? You can come around this way if you want. Okay.
I feel like I need a scissor lift at 5'3". Thank you very much. Congratulations to all of the inductees for 2019. My name is Jacqueline Chernicki-Onagi, and I am honored to speak on behalf of the three Dauphin Clippers boys teams being inducted, provincial champions from 1975, 76, and 1980. My late brother, Gerald Chernicki, was the captain of the 1980 provincial championship team under Coach Larry McDougall. I, too, was also fortunate to have played for Larry throughout high school and to have had the experience of winning a provincial championship in 1987. Winning. This spring, we watched in awe and nervous anticipation as the Toronto Raptors went on to unbelievably win the NBA championship as the fledgling Canadian underdog. Winning. Very recently, we cheered for the young and talented Bianca Andreescu as she blazed her way to victory in the Women's US Open. Winning. Is that what we learned in our years of basketball under the coaching of Larry Macdougall? Winning is an important goal. But I want to tell you today that what we learned by playing basketball for Larry was much more than about winning. It was about character building. Larry taught us two primary principles about character. Firstly, calmness in the face of adversity, and secondly, determination to reach our goals. No matter what the circumstance, Larry was able to stay unruffled, and as a result, so were his players. When facing an opposing team with fear and trepidation at their intimidating record, someone would ask, Coach Larry, is this team tough to beat? Larry would pause and just simply say, they're a pretty nice team. This calm and cool answer gave his players peace, confidence, and focus. He definitely was no Bobby Knight, and the most excited he got was when he stood up from the bench with a red face, or when he gave his infamous stare to one of his players when trying to get his point across. He was exceptional at keeping his composure. After speaking with many players from the championship teams, they told me that the virtue of calmness in the face of adversity, which they learned on the basketball court, has helped many of them throughout their adult lives. Larry modeled the value of remaining calm under pressure, and this helped to shape their collective character more than winning any championship ever could. Bianca Andreescu was determined to reach her goal of becoming a Grand Slam tennis champion. Through determination and hard work, she achieved her dream in an impressive way. Larry Macdougall built into all of his players the idea that determination is a requirement for success, a requirement for reaching one's goals. Larry was determined to persevere when winning seemed insurmountable. In situations like being down 8 points with 1 minute remaining, or when the declining health of key players took them out of the championship game. Using strategy and drawing on individual skills to overcome these challenges, Larry was able to help his teams succeed. Determination to reach the goal. Larry modeled it, his players embodied it. Determination was being built into the character of each and every one of us. Winning? The inductees here tonight were all winners. My brother was a winner. But winning wasn't the biggest experience that these basketball players came away with. It was the experience of having character traits of calmness and determination built into them by the example and guidance of Coach Larry Macdougall. On behalf of the players being inducted from the DRCSS, I would like to acknowledge the efforts of Greg Southam for taking the lead on the nomination. Without your persistence, Greg, we wouldn't be here celebrating tonight. Thank you. Once again, congratulations to the Dauphin Clippers provincial champs of 1975, 1976, and 1980. And on behalf of all of them, Larry, this one's for you. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. You can go back to your seats, and if there will be time later for you to take some pictures with the banner and maybe a better photo than we've got up here with people spread out all over the place. But thank you very much, and thank you to June. We'll be hearing more about Larry Macdougall later in the evening. You can take it, or if you want to leave it here for now, you can do that. You want to leave it here? Okay, and you can get it back later. Our next group of inductees are the Ross L. Gray Raiders, 1974, 1975, 1978, 1981, 1982, 1983, 1986, and 1989. As this is a basketball crowd, I'm pretty sure that most of you here tonight have seen the movie Hoosiers. It is the story of a small school that defeats a much bigger schools to win a championship. Well, we have here tonight our own version of Hoosiers, except they just didn't win one championship, but many, and we are honoring 8 of those teams here tonight. The term dynasty is truly overused in sport. However, this is the closest thing I've ever seen that actually deserves that title. The Ross L. Gray Raiders of Sprague, Manitoba have accomplished much since the school was established in 1966, when the Consolidated District of Sprague was formed. The first principal, Mr. Marvin Havorka, who's here tonight, felt that basketball would be a great team sport for the students, and the first court was in the town Centennial Hall. I visited there one day, and there was a picture. We can put it up in a moment of what the Centennial Hall looks like today. It probably didn't look as good back in those days, but that was their gym. Mr. Terry Gottseman, who's also here tonight, was hired to coach and served in that capacity from 69 to 83, and their own school gym was opened in 1972. The Raider basketball programs, both male and female, have established a standard of excellence that is unique in Manitoba. The 8 Raider teams we are honoring here tonight won an MHSAA provincial championship, 6 at the A level and 2 at the AA level, where they chose to play up, as we say, even though they could have stayed. I'm sure the other schools in the A were glad they played up those 2 years. Let somebody else win. In those years, the teams defeated Killarney and Hamiota, 2 much bigger schools with much bigger enrollments. The highlight might have been a 38-37 exciting championship game against Hamiota in 1981. It can also be mentioned that in 2 of those years, they did not win. They were runners-up, losing in the championship game. So they were always right in there. We have many, and I mean many, of the team members here tonight. Many of them are dressed in their nice blue shirts, and I will tell you that we purchased one of those for our Hall of Fame, and we'll be proud to display that in the near future. I would ask that the following people come forward, and Adam Wedlake is going to come and help me do this again, but because the wards are all here, it might be a good idea. Doris Savorka is here tonight, and I know she's good at doing stuff like this. Maybe you could take them, Doris, and give them out after, because it might be hard for Adam to hand them out to everyone that they belong to. But I'm going to ask these people to come forward, and I think we're going to have to use the front of the stage too. So the first ones that come can fill the back, and the second one can fill on the floor, but we can take better pictures later. I know Doris wants to take individual pictures of the teams, so we'll do that following the formal part of the evening. But with these young ladies, please come forward and be honored. Penny Elcock, Lynn Blackbird, Kim Bazahora-Mar, Gina Kayer, Kim Kayer, Monique Catelier Tardif, Wendy Christofferson, Lynn Cote, Cindy Cote Gavrilov, Lydia Crab Cote, Adrian Culleton Cote, Valerie Culleton, Pam Downing, Sarah Flatten Culleton, Leah Hebel, Amelia Havorka, Melissa Havorka, Michelle Jernberg, Valerie Hapichuk, Diana Mathis, Tara Prasic, Delaney Prasic, Sally Prevost-Holst, Tammy Rosa, Wendy Shaw Checkmeister, Nicole Sobering, Geraldine Christofik, Lisa Stewart Pertot, Laurie Stewart, Sharon Stewart, Mary Sunsdal Hebel, Penny Turgeon, Karen Vital Kemp, Krista Vogt. These are the players. I also ask coaches Terry Gottsman, Don McWhirter, and John Bukich to come forward to join the players. Sadly, two of the coaches, Betty Templeman and Mark Gadiant, have passed away. We're happy that Jane Happychuck Templeman is representing her mother here tonight and will accept on her behalf. I would ask her to come forward also. I would also ask Mr. Marvin Havorka and Mrs. Doris Havorka, both of whom acted as school principals during the time, also to come forward and share in this honor. Ladies and gentlemen, this is unique and very special. We're very happy to be honoring this outstanding group of athletes. I would ask that Mr. Jared Baines, the present principal of Ross L. Gray, please come forward to accept the banner on behalf of the school. Ladies and gentlemen, the Ross L. Gray Raiders. Let's hear it for them. They obviously played basketball much better than they sing. I could see why Mr. Avorka didn't start a glee club. That's the other one. Sorry. Oh, they have it. There will be lots of opportunity after for additional pictures where we can break the girls into the team groups and you can have different pictures with the banner. I know Mrs. Havorka, Doris Havorka wants to do that, so we'll make sure that there's time at the end to do it. I'm now going to ask Mr. Terry Gottsman, who was the coach and principal of the school for many years, to come forward and speak on behalf of the team. Teams.
I can tell you, they can't sing, and you noticed that tonight. But one thing they could do, they could play basketball, I can tell you that. And you can see the pride that they have, the T-shirts that they have. With Ross Wedlake all summer long, there was emails coming back and forth, and things are being changed all the time, names are being added. So I don't think hardly anybody's missing from this evening here. The Sprague Raiders would like to thank the Hall of Fame committee for selecting all our teams for the Hall of Fame. Special thank you to Ross Wedlake for his organizational skills with the committee, and to Morris Glimcher. He was the former executive director of the Manitoba High School Athletic Association. He was instrumental in changing the classifications of sports in Manitoba, so we'd like to thank him for that. When I received the phone call this spring, I thought, what are you talking about? It's 45 years ago. Nobody knows who the Raiders are, but evidently they do. So we're very proud and very honored with it. As Ross was mentioning, Marvin Avorka, the principal, he hired me in 1969. He thought that basketball would fit into the community. He was a former hockey player and baseball player, but he had the fortitude that we should have basketball. Ross also talked about the Sprague Community Hall. One of my former players here, Larry Prasic, was on the first boys team there. I asked him, how tall was that ceiling? I said, about 25 feet. He says, no, actually it was 22 feet. So we practiced the first couple of years in the hall, and we practiced our shots, so they just missed the top of the ceiling. And the first couple of years, the teams that come in there, they'd be so darn mad, they'd be banging it off the ceiling, and we'd make a nice shot and go in, and that's, over the years, the program grew. Well, we got better. We challenged ourselves, measured ourselves against other teams. We went as far away as Dauphin, Hamiota, Killarney, Winnipeg. We traveled the province. We had a lot of mileage on the buses, girls, and that's the truth. We talk about championships and champions. One thing, these girls, they had a lot of heart, a lot of desire. I would say there's no superstar that I would call in this group. They played as a team, and they played for each other. All the years I coached, after I left Sprague, I coached in the States across the line in Roseau, Minnesota. And that's probably the only superstar I ever coached was Megan Taylor. And she held the scoring record over 4,000 points. And she scored more points than even the boys' teams. She played at Iowa State. She was an All-American. She was drafted by the Minnesota Lynx in the first round and played for them for 3 years. So I would say that's a superstar, but in my heart, these girls are all superstars. As you saw from the program, the years of championship are listed there. As Ross mentioned, there's a couple other times we lost some close games, but we won a lot of close games too, so I guess it all balances out in the end. The thing with the Sprague teams was the community. The community rallied around the school. They rallied around the basketball teams. We were about the only show in town some nights or some weekends. And the hall, and then now in the gym, was always packed. Like Ross said, it was like the movie Hoosiers, and actually it was. When you look back at that small school, small town, people are going to come in and play you. They're going to, oh, these guys, they're not going to do anything. But when the score ended, we were always on top most of the times. The program has continued. The thing that I'm most proud of is the program has continued after I left and the other coaches that have left. The mark is still there. The current principal, Jared Baines, he's here at the end there. He also was a hockey player, and now he coaches basketball. And he's continued the program as we left it. The coaches that we talked about, he mentioned briefly, was Jim Berglund, helping with the first year, and then Betty Tempin, the late Betty Tempin, Mark Gadiant, the late Mark Gadiant. They also helped, they were instrumental. Don McWhirter, he's on down the end there, he was instrumental too. We had Adrian Cody that coached a few years. John Bukich, he's on the other end there, he contributed. And so the program has continued. I would especially like to thank all the Raider teams, especially the ones that I coached. It was a pleasure to coach you ladies. There were a lot of ups and downs, a lot of tough games and so forth, and a lot of tough love maybe at times, but what are you laughing at? But you know, they rallied as a team, and they are a team. Look at them today on the stage here. They have a lot of pride. One thing I'd like to do, I'd like to quote one quote from the great UCLA basketball coach, John Wooden. A team that cares for each other and works together will walk together forever. In essence, this is the Sprague Raiders girls basketball teams, all 8 that have won championships here. And we thank you.
Thanks, Coach. Well done.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your help too. Yeah.
Thank you.
What's that?
As I said earlier, there will be opportunities after the formal part of the evening to take more pictures. So that banner will be available, and you can take group pictures of the different teams. But once again, congratulations to the Rossell Gray Raiders. Okay, we move on now to the individual inductees, and first in the player category. The first of our individual inductees as a player is Belina de Geffe. Belina, or Belai as we used to call him, came to Canada in 1975, and as a result, started playing basketball much later than most people. A quote that I saw in an article was, "My father told me to take up either basketball or tennis," he said, and I think he made the right choice. He started Kelvin High School, where he led the Clippers to the MHSA 4A Provincial Championship game in his graduating year of 1976, where they narrowly lost in a very exciting final. I still remember that game. He then enrolled at the University of Winnipeg, where he had 4 very successful seasons under Coach Bruce Enns. And I emailed Bruce, and Bruce sends his best to Belai tonight. Bruce is in Washington State, correct, yes. As a tribute to his high school coach, Jaime Foxx, he was quoted in a newspaper article saying, this is Belai, of course, "I learned more in 2 weeks at university than I did in 2 years of high school." And in a TV interview in his first year about the challenges of adapting to university basketball from high school, he said, "It has been very difficult because I didn't learn much in high school." 2 quotes we have reminded Jaime about many times. He was selected to the GPAC, and for those of you who are young in this room, that was the Great Plains Athletic Conference, all-conference or all-star teams in all 4 of his years with the Westmen. He was selected as an All-Canadian and Westman Athlete of the Year in 1981. His stats that year were very impressive: 19.1 points per game, 9.2 rebounds per game, 3 block shots per game, while shooting 53% from the floor. An interesting statistic is he led the team in assists also, which is very uncommon for a big person, and free throws attempted. He still holds the Westman Classic record with a total of 42 rebounds, and that record I think will not change because we know there's been many changes with the Westman Classic. He was long and lean before they used those terms, and it seemed like he was able to go the length of the court in 2 or 3 strides. Probably he would have been a good decathlete. He has a great smile, which in one article I read was described as a Leon Spinks type of smile. Now, maybe some of you don't know who Leon Spinks was, but that's not a bad... Leon Spinks didn't have a lot of teeth either. I don't know. All this aside, he is one of the best to ever don a Westman uniform. He is here tonight all the way from Ottawa, where he has, within the last 3 years, has retired from his job with the federal government. And I told him that him retiring makes me feel very old. Accompanying Belai tonight is his wife, Anne, who played with the University of Manitoba Bisons herself, his sister, Taitu, and many friends and teammates right at the table right in front of me. Ladies and gentlemen, I would now ask Jaime Foxx, who is Belai's coach, who taught him all that stuff in high school, to come forward along with Ken Apolko, who is Belai's teammate. And I now ask you to come forward to make the special presentation to our Manitoba Basketball Hall of Fame Induction Award to the newest member of our Hall of Fame in the player category. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome and honor Belina de Geffe.
One of the advantages of having played 40 years ago is that you have plausible deniability. They had no social media then. So I don't recognize those quotations that Ross was talking about. On a more serious note, thank you, Ross. My thanks to the members of the nominating committee, and my thanks to all of you who have taken time to attend this particular event. It's so late, so soon. As I was preparing my remarks the other day, I realized it's been 44 years since I first moved to Winnipeg. 1975 represented a period of great change for me. On one hand, I got first-hand exposure to Manitoba's winter. I landed here in the middle of October, and the only time I believe that transit ever went on strike was about a month and a half after that. And so my sister and I had to walk to school for about 2 months in minus 30 weather. This is, of course, straight out of Africa, where we were enjoying weather at about plus 24 degrees. Secondly, it was a major change because it was an opportunity to resume my studies, which had been interrupted by the Ethiopian Revolution. And lastly, I was introduced to basketball. And as someone who came late to the game, I learned to appreciate the kindness of strangers, of which many later became friends, but all of whom were generous in sharing their expertise and knowledge of the game with me. I owe a particular debt of gratitude to my coaches, some of whom are here tonight, Jim Bullock Jr., Jaime Foxx, Bruce Enns, and Vic Pruden. University basketball was a brief experience in the sun. You go from being a freshman to becoming a senior in an eye blink. And then it's over, and at a time where I was just beginning to understand the game. This is when I began to really value and understand the infrastructure that surrounds the game. The coaches, the referees, the trainers, the statisticians, the journalists, and a thriving senior and recreational league. I enjoyed playing basketball as a senior for the love of the game, and I loved being free of the daily pressure, if you want, of competition that you had when you were in university. And it was just a treat to be able to head off on Thursday evening and go play with the individuals who I had become friends with, players I'd become friends with over the years. I deeply appreciate and continue to be indebted to my teammates for their camaraderie and their generosity. In closing, I'm grateful I was able to greet a lot of you this evening. We're at a point in our lives where we're increasingly faced with illness and loss. But I think we can also celebrate coming together to renew friendships and memories, and for this, I'm especially grateful. Thank you.
Well done, Belai, thank you. The next person we're recognizing in the player category is Margaret Mulder. Margaret Mulder took a roundabout route to get to Manitoba and the University of Winnipeg. She graduated from high school in Barrie, Ontario, where she was a multi-sport athlete, playing basketball, volleyball, flag football, track and field, skiing, and cross country. And that's a model for long-term athlete development if I've ever seen it. And if you don't know what LTAD is, look it up. She walked onto the women's team at York University, but says that she wasn't taught how to play until she played with the Nova Scotia senior women's team, the Red Foxes. She played in the 1984 Canada Summer Games and also in the National Canadian Senior Women's Championships in 1985 and 86. where she was a tournament all-star in 1986. Tom Kendall, many of you in this room know who Tom is, recruited her while she was attending Dalhousie University in Halifax, and she decided to come west because, according to one article I wrote, she said she was impressed with the professionalism of the program and the work ethic of the players. She said that she knew the University of Winnipeg would be a great fit for her, and she became a great fit for the University of Winnipeg. She played for the Westmen from '86 to '89, and right from the start, established herself as an outstanding player. She was a two-time GPAC All-Star in 1987 and 1988, and a CIAU, or we call it now CIS, or I guess it's really U Sports now. They keep changing it on me. All-Canadian in 1988, where she averaged 20.8 points per game, 7.8 rebounds per game, and shot 44% from the floor. In addition, she was selected CIAU National Player of the Week twice in that same year. She then went on to play for Canada's national team in 1988. I saw her play many times. I didn't know Margaret that well, but I watched her play many times. And I was always impressed with her fierce competitive spirit. She may not have been the biggest or the quickest, the best shooter or best dribbler, but she could play. And it looked like she was able to push herself harder and farther than most others. She's here tonight with many friends and family from Ontario and Alberta, her mother, her daughters. It is worth noting that both her daughters had some real success in basketball, and Megan won a bronze medal in rugby at the Olympic Games in Rio. So congratulations to her. I would now ask Susan Johnson to come forward. She's a member of our committee, to make the official presentation of our Manitoba Basketball Hall of Fame Induction Award to the newest member of our Hall of Fame in the player category. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome and honor Margaret Mulder.
Good evening to all. Wow, this is quite amazing. It's amazing to have the opportunity to travel back in time. I walked through the halls of the University of Winnipeg today, reminiscing with family and friends about the wonderful experiences I enjoyed in my early 20s. And I can't believe I'm here 30 years later. It's a great forum to bring the past to the present. I have only fond memories of Winnipeg, the cold and friendly city. I wanted to acknowledge the inductees tonight. Congratulations to all the recipients that are here this evening, and to all those who have received recognition in the past for their contributions to basketball in Manitoba. A special thanks to the sponsors who have supported this evening and continue to support and continue their support that they give throughout the years for such celebrations. A big thank you to Manitoba Basketball Hall of Fame Committee members for their dedication and timeless volunteer hours to make this evening special. And this is a very special occasion. It was 34 years ago when Tom Kendall approached me to come and play for his team. However, it took him 2 years to persuade me to come this way. I got on a plane from Halifax and joined the Lady Westmen, and it was one of the best decisions I've made in my life. I can't thank the coaching staff, athletic trainers, and this community enough for the incredible opportunities I enjoyed during my years here with the Lady Westmen. Aubrey made sure that we had the budget to travel in order to play against the best competition in the country. Coaches Tom, Gail, Sheldon, and Craig dedicated many hours not only in developing our skills, but also in supporting us as individuals. Glen and Ben took care of us as if we were their own daughters. The program was top-notch, and the success of the team was proof of that. I must extend gratitude for the support of my family. I have 2 tables here this evening. My father, who just passed a month ago and would have loved to be here tonight, along with my mother, made many sacrifices to allow me to take advantage of opportunities. I acknowledge my brothers and sisters, extended families, and friends who are here tonight in support of me, some of whom flew in from Ontario and Alberta. Not only did the University of Winnipeg offer me fabulous college experience, but it was a stepping stone for me to go on and to contribute more in sport to my family and to community. I have had the privilege of offering my knowledge and experience to many students, colleagues, friends, and family. I went on to become a teacher, an administrator, a coach, and a mom. I have 3 beautiful daughters, all of whom I have coached. Aliska, she currently lives in Hong Kong. Hello to Aliska and Scott. She played for both McMaster and Ottawa universities. Megan and Kaylee is not with us tonight. She's in Denver, Colorado, and she's playing for the women's Canadian Rugby Sevens. So a shout out to Kaylee as well. So Megan and Kaylee received full scholarships to the University of Green Bay, Wisconsin, as well as playing for both Team Ontario and Team Canada. Megan is here tonight with us, awarded with a bronze medal at the 2016 Rio Olympic Games for women's rugby. Rugby sevens, right? I didn't see that coming. There's many years of coaching them basketball. I did not see that coming at all. I mention this because I was gifted with the knowledge of the game from all my former coaches, and it was their mentorship that allowed me to pass on what I learned about what it takes to be an elite athlete, and to my daughters and to all young athletes in which I was able to coach. In closing, I am honored and humbled by this recognition. Many thanks to the Manitoba Basketball Hall of Fame committee members for this memorable evening. These celebrations bring family and friends together again after much time has passed, and it is wonderful to see the faces of the people with whom I spent so much time with in my early adulthood. I truly appreciate this acknowledgement, and I know I have been blessed by what this community offered me so many years ago. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Margaret. The next person we're recognizing is someone that I actually had the pleasure, I guess, if it was a pleasure. It wasn't that much of a pleasure at times because he was always playing against us, and that's Mike Vyra. Mike was a player, and Mike could score. He was the first real big-time recruit to the Brandon Bobcats by their first coach, Garry Howard. He came from Coquille, Oregon, and was probably a little frightened to come all the way to a strange country, far from home, and then to a then much smaller Brandon, Manitoba, and the new men's basketball program. I played against Mike Vyra, and I can tell you firsthand that he was a scorer. He was open as soon as he got in the gym, and never met a shot he didn't like or one that he thought he couldn't make. He played 5 years with the Bobcats and finished his distinguished career with almost 3,000 points. He was a 3-time GPAC All-Star and the BU Canada University Athlete of the Year in 1974. In the 73-74 season, he led the country in scoring, averaging 26.5 points per game, and became the first Bobcat to be selected as an All-Canadian. He played against us, the University of Manitoba Bisons, in 1971 in the famous 14-13 game, which saw the Bobcats stall by holding the ball, and they almost beat us. We hit a shot at the buzzer, though they were badly overmatched. I've always thought that Coach Garry Howard's greatest accomplishment in preparing for that game was to somehow convince Mike Vyra not to shoot the ball. Something he liked to do and something he was very good at. He was left-handed too, and he was tough to defend. Mike was inducted into the Brandon University Hall of Fame in 1996. He was a respected teacher in the Northwest Territories and Nanaimo, British Columbia, and also a talented and accomplished musician. His first CD was released, I believe it was in 2017. Sadly, if you remember in the names that I listed off at the beginning of the evening, Mike Vyra passed away suddenly in 2018. His son Mario, also an accomplished musician in his own right, who has recorded many albums, lives in Vancouver, wanted to be here tonight, but he had a performance. He called it a gig. I don't know, I've never had a gig in my life, but he had a gig that he was scheduled to play, and he sends his regrets. Accepting for Mike will be Jim Ross, a manager of those Bobcat teams, and I remember Jim, who was a good friend of Mike and who came all the way from Vancouver tonight to be here. So I now ask Jim to come forward, and Jerry Hemmings, who I believe you coached Mike in his last year. Am I right, Jerry? Correct. Look at that. I was right for once. Mark that down there, please. So I now ask Jerry to come forward to make the official presentation to Jim Ross of our Manitoba Basketball Hall of Fame Induction Award to the newest member of our Hall of Fame in the player category. Ladies and gentlemen, let's honor Mike Vyra.
The first order of business is to move this microphone down considerably. Ross, I certainly am honored to be able to accept this award on behalf of Mike and the Vyra family. Many of us remember Mike in his playing days, as Ross mentioned. I was at university with Mike for 4 years, and Mike was in year 2 when I came to Brandon University, and there was a lot of times that, I think Lanny McDonald spent some time with a hockey team I was helping with, and he says, you know, this junior time is the best time of your life. And I think that Mike would probably say that, and I think there's lots of people in this room that had an opportunity to play at the university level that would say the years that you spent at university with your teammates were probably some of the best years of your life because of the personal relationships that you've developed and the fun times that we'd had. Mike was he was a real go-getter right from the giddy up. He got to know Coach Howard, I think, when they were in Oregon together, and Mike followed Coach Howard to Brandon University. But one of the things that I remember Mike saying to me at one time, that he said when I was in high school and junior high, he said, I used to go and shoot 1,000 jump shots a day. And that was his workout. He said it would take me a little over 2 hours to do that. But he would do that each and every day, and you wonder why Ross, he was such a good shooter. Mike put his time in at it. Mike was also a great runner. He was quick. He could get up and down the court. But we had with Coach Howard, I can't remember whether that was year 1 or year 2. Bill, you would remember this, that we would run 6 miles a day, and this was in preseason. And Mike, of course, would never want to lose one of those. Although there was another fellow that we called Bill Old Folks Warren that was a long distance runner that they would go neck and neck, but Mike usually would have a sprint at the end to win just because Mike just hated to lose. He was a very competitive individual, and that bore out in many of the things that he did. Some of the memorable events that we had, one of them, and I've been asking a couple of people around here if they remember it, so this could be a story that could be completely untrue. It's how I remember it, but we were at a tournament in Ontario, and I believe it was at Waterloo, University of Waterloo, their Naismith Classic, if I remember right, and we played Friday, I think afternoon sometime, and I believe it was Laurentian University, who were ranked, I think, 10th in the nation at that time, and we beat them by 6 points with a team that included Ryan Gray, Ken Rucker, a couple of small players from Brandon that were first-year players, Murray Rogers, who ended up becoming a very good friend of Mike, Doug McPhail, who ended up playing more baseball than he did basketball. but they were a great young bunch. But anyways, the second day we had a game, and I believe it was 9 o'clock in the morning that we were to play. And Mike got Kenny Rucker up at 5 o'clock in the morning just to make sure that Ruck was going to be awake, because Ruck had never been up that early, I don't think, in his life, let alone any time in the last 3 or 4 weeks. So, but we went out there that morning, and if I remember right, I think we played St. Mary's or something like that, who were ranked very high in the nation, and had a very competitive game with them. I think it ended up a 1-point game, and then we once again played in the consolation finals. But it really kind of put Brand University, in my opinion, on the map that day because of the competitive nature of the team that really was outmanned and outgunned in lots of respect, except for one player, Mike Vyra. And Mike just led the team in scoring, and he worked in his work ethic was second to none. One of the other ones, now Ross, you might confirm some of this, or this might be once again total fiction, but I can remember playing at University of Manitoba, and Mike was playing and guarding Angus Burr. And Mike wasn't known as the quickest foot. He could run quickly, but wasn't necessarily defensively, wasn't all that a stellar player. However, that night, I think he stole the ball off Angus about 3 times as Angus was trying to bring the ball up the court. And of course, Mike was getting, in his kitchen a little bit with some of the talk that they had. So, but it was kind of one of those things that was a bit of the making of Mike Vyra and how competitive that he was. But as his career went through and he ended up becoming a teacher and that sort of thing, I remember in my second year, I think it was, Mike began to play the guitar. And not only would he practice basketball and play all the games and go to his studies and that sort of thing, but at that time he began to play, and he'd play like 4 to 6 hours a day, the guitar. And this became his love of his life, his musical career after that. And I moved out to Parksville, British Columbia, and Mike lived just down the road from me, 10 minutes, and it was so great to renew an acquaintance that had, of course, we'd only seen each other periodically over the previous 40 years, and I got an opportunity to see Mike play numerous times at some of the local venues and some of the blues concerts and that sort of thing. And he was well known on the island as one of the real great guys and one of the real great blues musicians and guitarists. He at one time had played with a Diamond Joe White. I think he played with Diamond Joe for a couple of years, and some really, really top-notch musicians, as Mike was himself. His got an opportunity. Mike's celebration of life was an amazing event. His son Mario had talked to his dad and said, "Dad, you have to record some of this music that you've written over the years." And Mike said, "Oh, well, I've got time, I've got time, I've got time." But Mario got him in the studio, and they recorded this album. And Mike passed away a week before he was to have his CD release party. And then his celebration of life, all the musicians from over the island came to it. They started playing at about 5 in the afternoon. I remember my wife and I left at 9 o'clock, and it was just getting going, it seemed like. And Mike would have been proud to have seen all his buddies there playing with him, and it was a very special evening. So on behalf of his family, his mother Barbara, daughter Jess, and son Mario, I thank you on behalf of the Vyra family, and I'll ensure that this gets off to them. Thank you very much.
One thing that Jim maybe hasn't learned is that, you never let facts get in the way of a good story. Like, the older I get, the better I was. Our next inductee is a very, very special one. This is a first for our Manitoba Basketball Hall of Fame. We are inducting one person into 2 categories at the same time. This person will be inducted as a player and a builder. Now, this is somebody that I have never met, and the more I've learned about her, the more I am impressed. Isabel Duncan Thompson is the first Manitoba Basketball Hall of Fame player, as I said, person to be inducted as a player and a builder. She has been inducted in 2 categories at the same time. In my preparation for this event, I decided to look up the definition of the word pioneer. According to Webster's dictionary, a pioneer is a person who plays a leading part in the early development of something, or as a verb, it means to prepare, initiate, and champion a specific cause. A synonym would be trailblazer. Isabel Duncan Thompson was a true pioneer and trailblazer, not only in women's basketball, but in women's sport in general. She played basketball and other sports at a time when I can only imagine how difficult it was to have people take women's sports at all seriously. Isabel Duncan Thompson was very proud to be born, go to school, and live her entire life in the Elmwood area of Winnipeg. She played with the 2 teams that probably most people, if not all of you, have never heard of, the Altomas and the Winnipeg Pegs, for many years, 1938 to 1955. And as a team captain was one of the top players of her time. She led the team to 6 Western Canadian championships. She was a league all-star many times and championed women's basketball in an era when money needed for travel or tournament entry fees had to be raised in many different fundraising activities. In addition to her successes as a player, Isabelle held many important roles in the organization and administration of the women's leagues for many years. She was president of the Greater Winnipeg Senior Women's League for many years and president of the Canadian Amateur Basketball Association, now Canada Basketball. All of the young women playing basketball today owe pioneers like Isabel Duncan Thompson a huge debt of gratitude for paving the way for the opportunities they have today. We're very pleased to be honoring her here tonight. Her sons gave me many clippings and some photographs from her career, and I tried to put them together in a scrapbook, which is now an important record of a time often forgotten in sport. We're very grateful to have it, and it is now online on our website for all to access and enjoy. Isabelle died in 2007 at the age of 88. She's represented here tonight by her son Neil and 3 grandsons. We're very grateful to have them and her son Bob for their assistance in forming her nomination. I would now ask Carol Plain Hosegood and Vic Pruden to come forward to make the official presentation of our Manitoba Basketball Hall of Fame Induction Award to the newest member of our Hall of Fame in the player and builder category. Ladies and gentlemen, let's all honor Isabel Duncan Thompson.
Although my mom has been inducted in 2 categories, I only wrote 1 speech, so you get 4 minutes back, Ross. On behalf of my mother and the entire Thompson family, I would like to thank the Basketball Hall of Fame Selection Committee for this great honor you've bestowed upon my mom. She would have been absolutely thrilled. I would like to take this time to congratulate all the inductees. My mom would have been humbled and overjoyed at being inducted with such an elite group of athletes, individuals, and teams. And she would be particularly thrilled being inducted with Irv Haddock because she knew him from my days at Elmwood High. My mom was an eloquent speaker, but really didn't speak that much about her athletic endeavors. So I can only guess at what she would say if she were here. I'll take my best shot at it. First, my mom would have thanked the fans for their support, their loyalty and enthusiasm that they brought to each and every game. It's because of the fans that basketball has grown from church basements and playgrounds to multi-thousand seat arenas worldwide. Mom would have thanked the organizers, administrators, and managers for all the unsung activities that they take on to make the game function. The recruiting of players, the fundraising, the logistics of games and practices, organizing tournaments, and arranging transportation and accommodations were things these folks did that often went unnoticed but never underappreciated. I'm sure my mom would have thanked the coaches she had over the years for taking the time to pass along the wisdom of the game from one generation to the next. The hours put in scouting teams, developing strategies and tactics, endless practices to enhance the players' skill sets, and especially for the loud encouragement in your ear or the pat on the back for a job well done. The coaches were always there for the players. Lastly, Mom would have thanked all of her teammates over the years. Basketball is first and foremost a team game, and no one individual can be successful on their own. She was always grateful for the game, for all the things it taught her about basketball and about life. More importantly, it was the enduring and lifelong friendships that she forged while playing the game that she cherished the most. She couldn't always remember the points she got in a game or the outcomes of the games themselves, but she never forgot the friends that she made. In June of this year, my mom would have been 100 years old. Being a good Elmwood girl with a wicked sense of humor, she might also have said, with her tongue firmly planted in her cheeks, "Well, it's about bloody time." Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Neil. We have other builders to recognize, and I could spend a lot of time at it, but I won't. Sometimes the debate is what exactly makes a builder. We have 71 people who have been acknowledged in our Hall of Fame: coaches, referees, officials, administrators, even some media people. Tonight we'll be honoring 4 other people who have contributed a great deal. A builder is usually, and I think if we want to just put it in simple terms, someone whose passion for basketball has left a legacy, and as a result, the game is markedly better because of his or her leadership. The first person we're going to recognize is someone who was very special to me, and I have to tell you, this is going to be tough on me. This up here now, I couldn't believe it. This is my 9th time. They told me I have to keep doing it till I do it right. But it's been a lot of fun. But this one, as I said, is going to be personally hard for me. Irv Haddock was part of my life for a long time, as far as I can remember, really. Even though he was older than me, we grew up together. And he was often somebody that I kind of wanted to be like, because Irv was a tremendous athlete. He always laughed at my jokes. And I know you're sitting there and thinking, this guy thinks he has jokes. But Irv laughed at them anyways. He had a good career as a player at St. John's High School, ahead of me, and then at the University of Manitoba with the Bisons, and we actually became teammates for a few years. He then went on to the St. Andrews Super Saints, where we played together, and he wound up coaching us one year, and we actually toured Brazil in the spring of that year, and Irv was our coach. Irv's greatest contribution came as a result of a long career as a physical education teacher and coach at several different Winnipeg high schools. He started at Elmwood High School, and it was mentioned earlier, his contribution to the Thompson family. And Bob Thompson, Isabel Duncan's other son, even had such a great relationship, he invited Irv to his wedding. He also taught at Daniel McIntyre and St. John's High School. His teams were always hardworking, competitive, and well-behaved because that is what the coach expected, and he was very good at motivating young people. After retiring, he continued to coach at Jean Sauvé and Dakota and led the Jean Sauvé Olympians to a 4A provincial championship in 2005. He also found time to referee basketball in Winnipeg for 18 years. He was a longtime lead convener for junior and senior high schools. He was a mentor coach in the inter-city b-ball program. He was a volunteer at the Western Canada Summer Games, the Pan American Games, the North American Indigenous Games, the Basketball Manitoba Board of Directors, and he was on our Manitoba Basketball Hall of Fame committee. He also participated in coaching and player clinics and even traveled to Nunavut once to help prepare a team for the Arctic Games. He was the Mike Spack Award winner in 1996, and if you don't know what the Mike Spack Award is, given to a person for long-time contribution in coaching. Irv should be here tonight to personally accept this award. He earned it. However, he died in 2016, and even though his body gave out on him, he never stopped caring for others and enjoying a good laugh with family and friends. There are many of Irv's colleagues here tonight from different schools paying tribute to him, and I thank them for being here. Also here tonight is his wife Cease, son John, daughter Kyla, brother Harvey, and many other family members. I would now ask Cease to come forward, and Morris Glimcher will make the official presentation. So I'd ask Cease to come forward to accept the award to the newest member of our Basketball Hall of Fame in the Builder category. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome and honor Cease in place of Irv Haddock.
Irv loved every aspect of the game of basketball. As a player at Luxton, that's where the seeds were planted. Ross and the gang, I think they called them Under the Cellar, Under the Stoop or something, club. And they played basketball all the time. And as a result, on the basketball courts in Luxton, there are some extra nets that were put up by the St. Andrews Nicollet. They have an annual golf tournament, and the proceeds went to make sure kids could keep on playing at Luxton. I also played basketball initially, and I actually got a step in on him. He lost his shorts that day. He couldn't believe I could do that, and I never did it again, but I got him. I also know he loved the game so much that he gave me, for my first Christmas present, a pair of white, high-cut Chuck Taylors. That is not a good idea, gentlemen in the room. After a little talk, he became the best gift giver in the world. No more Chuck Taylors. He loved being a referee. He loved teaching. And in this room today are many of those people that he taught, and especially his girls, his Daniel girls and his St. John's girls. They still come out to the cottage on an annual basis when they had little kids and now when they're older. He wasn't just a teacher or a coach. He became like a parent, a friend, and they are best friends today. And I know for me, it's been awesome too to have that particular group. They did at Daniel say that they knew everything about the game and they weren't really sure why he was there to coach them. He also coached the grades elementary school, which Kyla was at, and within 20 minutes of warm-up, drinks, and a few drills, they thought they understood the game completely. And so they went off and decided to play. He came home and he went, oh, this is not happening. We also have a basketball hoop in our yard with 8,000 million kids that could hang out there day in and day out. I think sometimes I go to bed and I still hear the clunk, 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 of the basketball game, all the times. And one day maybe the benches on the in the gyms will have padded seats. Because I don't know about you, but the wives that watch these guys play, it's hard, and it doesn't get any better, even when you get older. We also had to watch, he loved going, and we went to the Canada Games, and we watched John play with Todd McCullough against Steve Nash. And correct me if I'm wrong, you outdid him.
We beat him.
Beat him. That was the last time we beat him. Steve Nash, of course, went on to many, many great things. He loved mentoring, and that's probably where his most significant impact was teaching and mentoring young coaches, players to be the best they could be. And as many people have mentioned tonight, It's not just the game, it's what's the result of the game and the character that's produced as a result. And there are so many people. I lost track of the number of people that became coaches, teachers of the game in this province and went on to be in other provinces across. And I even know we had late night calls of students, and I remember one in particular, an Indigenous young fellow from St. John's. He called, I think it was like 2 in the morning. He wanted to know how to get out of the gangs, and we wanted to play basketball, and how could he go about it. And that's the kind of thing that most people don't realize what coaches go through and what they do with handling the kinds of things that are out there. It's pretty amazing what you see. He built toughness into people, and Sandy and Lucy will know for sure, and then it just carried on into their professional life. We have so many friends and connections through basketball, and of course, you can't forget St. Andrew's Super Saints and their enemies, the Nicolette. Guys, many, many conversations. But it's really been an honor. He did know he was nominated. Ross had nominated him, and he did know that he was nominated, so he was absolutely thrilled in his quiet way. I'm sorry he wasn't able to be here. He would have loved to have been here, but I know he's watching, and he probably is thrilled out of his head, especially when he saw one of his students, the Saint Jean-Sauvé, win the recent provincial 4A championships. He would have loved it. What you don't know is every time he would win something, they gave him a cell phone, and he really didn't like cell phones. And he gave them back to his players. There's one last way he will continue, and he is continuing to contribute to the sport of basketball, and that his legacy fund that was formed when he passed away just gave its first gift to be matched by the Winnipeg Foundation to the endowment fund of the Manitoba Sports Hall of Fame. So he will go on. And thank you very much for all of your participation, and Ross for your nomination, and thank you.
Now I can take a breath. Thank you, Cease, John, and Kyla. Our next inductee is someone we've heard a little bit about already tonight, but it's very appropriate that he is being inducted at this time with the teams that were inducted first this evening. Larry Macdougall was a coach, and he dedicated himself to being a coach for many years. He coached at the Dauphin Regional Comprehensive Secondary School for 32 years. To say he was an institution at the school would be an understatement. During his tenure with the Clippers, he led 3 varsity boys teams, we saw them up here earlier this evening, to provincial championships, and 1 varsity girls team to another provincial championship in 1987, an impressive record to say the least. However, everything, and we've learned this earlier this evening too, that I've learned about Coach Larry Macdougall tells me that winning championships may have been nice, but he was about much more than that. A quote from Greg Southam, one of his players, went as follows, and we kind of heard a little bit of this earlier. Larry is probably not what you think of as your typical coach. He was the calmest, most decent coach you could ever have hoped to play for. He went on to say the only way you could tell Mr. Macdougall was excited was if he stood up at the bench. He didn't say much, but if he stood up at the bench, we knew he was excited. He was also a coach who extended his role much past the basketball court. You could go to him at any time if you needed help or guidance. Everyone referred to Larry as the coach. He made an impression on each and every player. Dwayne White, who is here tonight, was also an honored member of our Hall of Fame as a builder, was someone who was coached by Larry in the early years at Dauphin as a young man. He was quoted in the newspaper article as saying, Larry is the main reason Dauphin has basketball. He does everything in a positive way, which builds the confidence in his players. When asked why he moved to girls basketball, Larry said, I switched to give Dwayne a chance to win the boys' title. And Dwayne did win some. Besides basketball, Larry was very active in the broader sports community. He once curled an 8-ender. I think that's curling, isn't it? Yes, I think. And loved to hunt, fish, and golf. Sadly, Larry Macdougall passed away in 2017. He's represented here tonight, as we saw earlier, by his wife, June, daughter Corey Lynn, and many other friends and colleagues. We're going to ask now Dwayne White, who played for Larry, and as I said, in those early years, and is also an inducted member as a builder, to come forward to make the official presentation of our Manitoba Basketball Hall of Fame Induction Award to the newest member of our Hall of Fame in the builder category. Ladies and gentlemen, let's honor Larry Macdougall.
What I want to say about Larry today is more than about basketball. The boys that Larry taught or had coached in 76, 78, and 80 are 40 years older now. And they knew him as the coach, and that's what they called him all the time. But they don't really know anything else about Larry. And so tonight I want to fill them in. Okay. He was born in Hamiota, Show Lake area. As a boy, he trapped muskrat on the farm to make spending money. His sport at that time was playing baseball, and he was recognized in his baseball sport skills at the high school level. Later, when he moved to Dauphin, he joined the senior men's team, the Redbirds, and he played for them for many years. And he was inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame in Morden, Manitoba, 3 times, I believe. Another favorite pastime of his was the hunting of geese and ducks. We can hear them, I can hear them out my bedroom window now, coming into the fields. He had fantastic eyesight. He could see the birds coming before anyone else in the crowd. Not only was he a hunter of ducks and geese, but he liked to shoot elk and deer. He never came home empty-handed. He was a crack shot, which was a good thing because we used to keep Dauphin Kings hockey players, usually 2 at a time, so the meat came in handy. In the winter, he enjoyed taking the family to Singoosh Lake in the Duck Mountains. And we skied and skidooed for 2 days on the weekends. It was absolutely fabulous. As you know, Larry was quite an athlete. He enjoyed all the sports. So during the summer, he belonged to the Dauphin Men's Golfing Club and participated in many weekend tournaments. He was a left-hander, but he was extremely fortunate to come home with several trophies over the years. At Dauphin Lake, Larry enjoyed ice fishing in the winter. In fact, after retirement, he and a friend invested in a bowler trailer and made it into an ice shack. In the spring, when the weather was warm, we would get to eat those fish with friends and relatives. We'd have a little barbecue, deep fried. In terms of curling, he kept 1 night a week open to curl in the men's league. And as Ross said, they did get an 8-ender. I've curled my whole life, and I still have never managed to get an 8-ender. As a young man, Larry played high school basketball, and he loved every minute of it. When he first came to Dauphin, he joined the men's league, and they traveled all over Manitoba playing against other men in the basketball league. And he was very interested in coaching. He mentioned that a few times. So he began coaching in 1960. Not only did he love the game, he also enjoyed unlocking the potential of his young players and showing them what they could be. He liked the finesse of the game, the high-level planning, and the maneuvering of the opponents. Basketball was exhilarating for Larry. He and I were married, and after 14 years, we had a daughter, and then we had a son, one in 75, the other in 77. So it was a really busy time. That's right when basketball took off. And there was no way he wasn't going to stop coaching. He loved it. So when it came around to basketball, and there was lots of practices, and we had to travel for our games, we made it work. And it was worth it. Winning those 3 provincials were the highlight of his coaching career. We were married for 52 wonderful years, and I miss him every day. I know he'd be truly touched with this honor. This is a wonderful honor. My family and I want to thank everyone for making the great effort for coming here. I know you had to come a long ways, and I want to thank everyone. Thank you very much again.
Thank you. Thank you, June. Our next inductee, Bill Moody, has done just about everything in the game of basketball. He started as a player, went on to coaching, did a lot of refereeing, and has played a big role in organizing and promoting basketball in the Westman region. Bill Moody is a name of great respect in Brandon, Manitoba. You mention his name at just about any restaurant in town, you'll probably get the best service and the best table. Dwayne White was telling me earlier that during the peak of Bill's popularity in Brandon, he thought it was going a little bit to his head. And he told me a story that one night Bill came home late at night. It was one of those cold January nights from coaching or refereeing. Got into bed with Linda and cuddled up close, and she said to him, "God, your feet are cold." And he looked at her and said, "Look, when we're in bed, it's okay to call me Bill." That's what Dwayne told me, at least. I think I used that one on you, didn't I? Bill Moody was born in Winnipeg, moved to Toronto before the end of high school. He returned to Winnipeg in 1967 and played senior men's basketball with the Madison Chimneys. There's a name that some of you might remember. And represented Manitoba at the first Canada Games in Quebec in 1967. He was known as a very tough competitor. He enrolled at Brandon University and had a good 4-year career with the Bobcats. His teaching career took him first to Neelan High School in Brandon, where he coached the Spartans to the B Provincial Championship, and then Killarney, Manitoba, where he coached for 5 very successful years at many different levels: junior high, junior varsity, and varsity boys. In 1979, he accepted a huge challenge by taking the reins of the Brandon University women's team. Before Bill Moody's 4-year term as Bobcat head coach, the team had very little success. However, as they say, he turned the program around and had them nationally ranked regularly and competitive every year in a very tough GPAC league. He is still the winningest women's coach in Bobcat history. In recognition of his work, he was twice chosen GPAC Coach of the Year. He then returned to high school, moving first to Crocus Plains, where he led the Plainsmen to their first ever MHSA Final Four. Then came refereeing, or the dark side, as some would say. For over 40 years, Bill established himself as a top and well-respected official. He worked games at high school, Canada West University, Canada Winter Games, and maybe a highlight, the Canadian College Athletic Association final in Kelowna in 1981. Bill also organized and participated in numerous coaching clinics all around Western Manitoba. He was the chair of the only MHSA Provincial Championships that have ever been played, with all 4 levels in one location, being Brandon. Bill Moody has definitely left his mark on the game of basketball in Brandon and throughout the province. Bill now lives in the Clear Lake area and is an avid golfer. Tonight, Bill is accompanied by his wife Linda, daughter Tina, many other family and friends. I'm going to ask Wes Krimble, of our Hall of Fame committee, and also a Mabel representative, to now come forward to make the official presentation of our Manitoba Basketball Hall of Fame Induction Award to the newest member of our Hall of Fame in the Builder category. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome and honor Bill Moody.
Well, thank you. It seems I'm the only one that's been made fun of so far, so I'll go over it, maybe rightfully so, but I do have a sheet here, and it's shorthand. We'll see what happens, but congratulations to everyone that's nominated. I have a connection with everyone that's been inducted tonight. Macdougall's especially. Our son actually billeted with the Macdougals for a year while he was playing hockey in Dauphin, and Larry and June were so good to him. And there was other people out here that I know. Irv Haddock was just a great guy, that distinct laugh I'll never forget, even at Clear Lake. We won't go there though, right? Like Ross said, this is more about the growth of the game than an individual, I think. And you know, we're very happy to have people like Ross and Basketball Manitoba take care of all of this. I was born in Winnipeg, and it makes me proud I'm from Manitoba. And Dennis is next. And Dennis, I might have had to go to Glen long because I lived in St. Vital before my father was transferred to Toronto. But I learned basketball in Toronto at the YMCA. I used to sit there and watch all the older guys play. And then what you would do, you'd try to sneak in, and when somebody left, maybe you were next. And this afternoon, I saw a pair of my old running shoes at the Hall of Fame. Chuck Taylor, black, low cut, very supportive, you know. But that was the Boston Celtic, right? What I did there after the YMCA, I went to Humberside High School in Toronto. It goes grade 13 at that time. I was a January birth, so I was almost 21 when I got out, but I was a pretty good player there. And Earl Roberts, a decade apart from me, was also a Humberside grad, but I keep telling him he was the second best player to ever come out of there, so he's well aware of that. What happens when I came here to Winnipeg, I happened to be at the YMCA, and somebody said they got a senior team, Madison Chimneys, and I hooked up with that, and it was very, very fortunate I did. I had some great players there. Fred Engelson was the playing coach, and I was kind of the young guy there, but we ended up playing against a very, very competitive St. Andrews team, and we ended up winning and going to the Winter Games in Quebec and won the silver medal, and later Port Alberni and Ken Galanchuk here tonight, we lost a very close game to Port Alberni. And as a matter of fact, I haven't seen Ken for 50 years. He came over and talked to me. The last time I saw him, he made me miss a plane in Quebec City, so I was trying to make that. And then there was Glen Torgerson, who's in the Hall of Fame. I got connected with Glen about 7, 8 years ago down in Arizona, and somebody I was golfing with said, you know, there's a player, a basketball player from Winnipeg you might know. And I haven't seen Glen for like the same time. And they said, I said, who's that? They said, Glen Torgerson. I said, well, I don't know if you'd ever want to golf with me, but so we ended up golfing a couple times, and we were kind of looking at each other and not too sure, and now we've become friends, and Glenn Sharon's been to our place, we've been to their place at Victoria Beach, but he gave me the ultimate compliment, I thought. We were playing, he says, you know, you golf a lot like you play basketball. And I said, well, that's very nice. What do you think, Glenn? He says, do you think you can make a shot from anywhere? So that wasn't a compliment, was it? And after playing with them, I, as Ross mentioned, moved to Brandon University and had a 4-year career there and played with Mike Vyra, which is special as well, and Jerry Hemmings. And he mentioned that that 14-13 infamous game. Well, I played in that game, and a couple years ago he said they were really bad. Tonight he said we were overmatched. Maybe you were that good, Ross, because I do remember that we beat Lethbridge, we beat Calgary, we beat Alberta, we beat Regina, we beat Saskatoon that year. You were just that good. And I still blame my late friend Jan Kreitzer, which was here tonight, for letting Angus Burr get that shot away, but that was the final. After university, I coached 1 year with Jerry Hemmings, and that's a challenge, I'll tell you that. Yeah, the next morning, you know, whether you win by 20 or win by 2, we're having breakfast, and he's got the coffee cups as guards, and he's got the ketchup as but I'll tell you what, you got it worked out when you were with Jerry. And after I got my education degree, I had the opportunity to get a teaching job in Killarney. And you know, when you're a coach, a lot of times it's who your players are. And Ray Hurd had established a great program down in Killarney, and I was very fortunate because I would have loved to stay in Brandon and teach, but in those times there wasn't many teaching jobs available because everybody was in the same age category. So I said, well, maybe I'll go down to Killarney, and I had an interview, and I got the job. And I talked to Ray. I said, well, Ray, I got the job. Must have been my grade point. He used to know, coach basketball. So, in those rural towns back then, if you were a defenseman and knew a bit about geography, you got the job. But times were changing because of the basketball community that we had in those years at Brandon. And Dwayne White up there, I see him. We used to do a lot of clinics up in all those places. But Ray had started such a good program. But I was so gung-ho. I had, you know, preseason running. We're going, hey, Ray said, slow down. I said, why? He says, you know, great kids, good athletes. Some play volleyball, some play football, some play hockey, some play all three. So you got to manage your time. And he says, one other thing, you got to get your bus driver's license. I said, bus drivers? He says, yeah, we don't have a driver in town that wants to drive 2 hours to Verdun, watch 4 hours of basketball, and drive 2 hours back. So, bus driver's license, right? So we had to go. But and we had such a good program there. The tournaments were great. And, you know, Ross Wedlake used to bring his Cadillon East team down there. And I know Kennepolka was down there playing with Daniel Mack. And they'd bill it with the kids and had a great experience. A great run tournament. And actually, Ross even refereed a couple of games, but that's all I'll say about that, I'll tell you. And while I was in Killarney, the Canada Winter Games came to Brandon in February, and I got to referee while I was teaching Killarney, and it was a women's 20 and under. What a fabulous tournament, and I got lucky to do the final game in Keystone Center between Ontario and Quebec. And a few months later, George Berger called me and asked if I'd be interested in coaching. And I said, well, we'll talk about it. And, you know, it kind of interests me, so I moved to Brandon. And because George in those winter games had a couple of people, a couple of girls from the Maritimes that were coming to Brandon the following year. So Brandon hadn't done anything in a while. And I'm going to tell you a story that when you're coaching, I've never seen a jockey finish in front of his horse, right? So I was very, very fortunate when I went to Brandon, when I went to Killarney with Ray and went to Brandon, that I had some players that were very, very good. But the thing that really impressed me was the Manitoba kids that I had there, Barbara Marie Rollator and Colleen Sweeney from Boys Van, Karen Pearson from Minnedosa, Catherine Woods from Killarney. Those girls melded with the team that we had, and that was one of the main reasons we had success. So, you know, the Manitoba kids, and they were willing to do anything to make the team have success. and that made it special for me, so we're very, very proud of that. Now, just quickly on the refereeing side of it, when I was in university, you refereed junior high, tried to develop things, but you know what happens? We go to rural Manitoba, 3 of us would go out and do a tournament for the whole day, the whole weekend, and what would one of the kids say? You call a foul on them? Oh, thank you, Mr. Moody, for coming out, and they go get the ball for you. You get to Brandon, where the rivalry is a little more intense. You call a foul on them, they throw the ball to the other official down at the end of the court, right? So now you see that. Then you do the senior league, and every second whistle, there's an unkind remark about your mother or something, right? And then you get to the university league, and that's tremendous, because I did a lot of university games, and you know, it's intense, and they're animated. See Bill Woodlake, I love Bill Woodlake, he was animated there, but never personal. And you know, the university, and then Jerry Hemmings, my good friend, I'm refereeing, go down, come on, ref, you know. I said, come on, Bill. I thought my name was Bill, but he's, and I know Jerry's bilingual, but can somebody tell me what the languages are? That'd be great, but he's a great friend. But the refereeing, and I referee with Rick DeGan, he's here in Grant Coulter, it's a team, just like a basketball team, and you try your best. I felt that being an official, I knew how hard players worked, I knew how hard coaches worked, and I really thought that if you're a referee, you better do the same thing. And for the most part, that's what we're all about. Okay, so in closing, I just have to say that what a great group. This has been tremendous. I have to thank my family, because you know, when you're working with other people's kids, sometimes at the expense of your own. And you know, I'm very fortunate to have support at home. My wife's from Flin Flon, so I said, oh, I got her, she doesn't know anything about basketball. And she didn't. She really didn't know anything about hockey either. But, and she said to me, you must be a very good player. I said, well, why is that? She says, well, you go to the gym at 6 and practice till midnight. So tough to trick a girl from Flin Flon when you do that. But we had great support from our friends and family to allow our own kids to involve in their sports. And they were, you know, they graduated to where they had great volunteer coaches like us all in here, and they ended up being, you know, be able to play university sports at their highest level. And, you know, just thank everyone here for whatever they've done. And Dennis, I know you're next, and I'm sorry I never got to play for you. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Bill. Dennis Wilson is our next inductee. Some people do what they do with a lot of fanfare and noise. It gets them a lot of attention and gets noticed. Others go about their business quietly and almost under the radar, as they say, but are just as effective, if not more so. Our last inductee of the evening is definitely someone who fits into that. Dennis Wilson has made a tremendous contributions to the game of basketball, and I would venture to guess that many have never heard of him. Nevertheless, he is a true builder and well-deserving of this honor. He began coaching at Glen Collegiate in 1961, and as one newspaper report said, he was young but capable. He may not be young anymore, but he is still very capable. During his tenure at Glen, he led the Lions to a 4A provincial championship in 1967, a championship at the Fort Garry Invitational Tournament, and 3 tournament championships at the Golden Boy Classic, which later became the Westman Classic. He also participated in many coaching clinics for junior high coaches, which helped many become very successful and effective coaches in the St. Mattel and Fort Garry area. He went on to a long career as an administrator in the Fort Garry School Division, where he helped build very successful junior high and elementary school programs that developed many fine young basketball players. His leadership was also shown in the fact that he looked for and hired young teacher coaches who would work with athletes in the schools, something that's sorely missing in many places. He also coached for 6 years at the Royal Canadian Legion Athletic Camp at the International Peace Gardens, mentored high school students in the b-ball program for inner city schools, and even coached his grandchildren in the Winnipeg Minor Basketball Association. In my opinion, his legacy is most clearly shown in the fact that so many of the players from those early Glen Lion teams are here tonight. Obviously, he had a tremendous and lasting effect on these then young men who still truly respect Mr. Wilson. Wasn't Mr. Wilson the guy who lived next door to Dennis the Menace? Wasn't he? I think he was, wasn't he? And now that I just said that. As a matter of fact, Carol Plain Hosegood, a member of our Hall of Fame committee, mentioned that Mr. Wilson gave her her start in basketball at Oakenwald Elementary School. Anyway, I think if you looked up the definition of the word gentleman in the dictionary, there should be a picture of Dennis Wilson there. He is here tonight with his wife Marg, his 2 sons, and other members of his family. I would now ask Vic Pruden and Carol Plain Hosegood to come forward to make the official presentation of our Manitoba Basketball Hall of Fame Induction Award to the newest member of our Hall of Fame in the Builder category. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome and honor Dennis Wilson. And I knew he was going to wear this jacket, and probably the most impressive thing is it still fits. I couldn't, there was no way I'm wearing any jacket from the...
Good evening, and it has been a long, good evening. It's such an honor to be here with you tonight. I'd like to take a few minutes to share some thoughts about coaching. I look back on my coaching years as some of the best times of my life. Started out as a 20-year-old teacher coaching the grade 10 team at Glen, and I was green. In fact, I didn't even know enough to know that I didn't know enough. The next year, I had the opportunity to also coach the varsity team, where the players were a little closer to me in age. That was a challenge. I remember the day in early December 1962, I'm old, when this older man, probably in his 40s, walked into the gym. Expensive suit, perfect grooming. He introduced himself as the father of one of my players. He told me about the trouble he was having with his son at home. Couldn't get him to do any schoolwork. Had very poor grades in the report that would just come out. I'll never forget his words, and I quote, "My boy won't listen to me, but he listens to you. And I appreciate your pushing him to study to get better marks if he wants to stay on the team. Since you spoke with him last week, I've seen him doing schoolwork every night. That kid listened to me." It's the first time it really hit me that a coach really can make a difference. Obviously, it was a special moment for me because I remember every detail, and that was 58 years ago. I could be a coach who could make a difference. As the years rolled by at Glenlawn, I learned a lot about basketball. I had talented athletes who really wanted to play. The game for me was all about fundamentals. I really didn't want our players to have turnovers. If from dragging a pivot foot, making a bad pass, losing a dribble. I felt if we could win the turnover game, we had a very good chance to win the game. I was absolutely ecstatic when we won the Provincials in 1967. I was so proud of those guys. They couldn't have played better for the 3 games. It was amazing. I even brought my Glen yearbook tonight, as well as the jacket. I have to show you the team picture if you want to. Early 70s, I moved on to Acadia Junior High School, brand new school in Fort Richmond. Lots of energy, lots of kids. I wanted to coach at the developmental level, so I worked with the grade 8 boys team for 3 years. We platooned 5 players every 4 minutes in every game. By the end of the year, in each of those 3 years, we had 10 starters, not 5. We had 10. The improvement was absolutely amazing to me. Then for 8 years, I helped my son Dean coach his son Derek, my grandson, in the Winnipeg Minor Basketball League. My job evolved there was sitting in the stands and making notes on each player and then giving feedback at the practice the following week. That seemed to work. Now, why didn't I think to have this kind of communication with all my Glenlawn guys? And instead of going for the big win, why didn't I focus more on playing every kid? Give them all a chance to develop. I'm glad I had the chance to coach kids of all ages. I think the different experiences made me a better coach. I guess it's true. Life does teach us lessons. This is a very special night for me. It's so great to see family, friends, and veteran Glenlawn Lions here. You know, I can't think of a place I'd rather be tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis. Just a couple of closing comments. First of all, the numbers of the winners of the prizes will be put up there. Remember, whoever wins the license plate needs to come and see me. The rest can be claimed over here. See those 2 beautiful people? One of them looks like my wife, one looks like my daughter. They'll be over there to help you claim your prizes. Also a reminder that I know the Rossell Gray teams want to take lots of pictures of the individual teams. That can be done right up here with the banners, without the banners, whatever you want. We have the room till at least another hour, hour and a half. The bars will be open. It's been a great evening. I really, really want to thank you on behalf of everyone for being here. And remember that our next gathering will be the last Saturday in September in 2020. Sorry, 21. Right? Because 2 years from now, my math is suspect as usual. But again, thank you very, very much. We hope you enjoyed your evening. Feel free to stay as long as you can. Remember, let's keep working for basketball and make it. Together, we make it better. Together, we grow basketball. Thank you very much.